You were taught you are a person, a name, a body, a collection of memories you've stitched together into something you call you. But here's what nobody, not your school, not your church, not your parents sitting at the dinner table, ever actually asked you. What if that version of you was never the real one? Not because someone lied to you on purpose, but because there's a system so old, so deep, so woven into everything around you that it taught you to lie to yourself. And the strangest part? Some part of you has always quietly known something was off. Not in a dramatic way, just a low hum. A feeling that what you've been shown about life and God and who you are isn't the whole picture. That feeling, that's what we're following today, all the way to the end. Here's something most people never stop to think about. We spend our whole lives doing things, making choices, forming opinions, falling in love, getting hurt, recovering, falling again. And through all of it, we never once stop to ask, who is the one doing all of that? Like you question your decisions, you question other people, you question God sometimes. But the one doing the questioning, that one just gets a free pass. The ancient Gnostics had a name for this. Not sleep, not death, something weirder than either. They called it leth, a forgetting so total that the person who's forgotten doesn't even know there's anything to remember. Picture it like this, you're inside a dream. But it's not a soft, floaty dream. It's got traffic and bills and relationship drama and back pain and a job you're not sure you even want. Everything in it feels completely undeniably real. The Gnostics weren't saying the world around you is fake. They were saying the experience of the world, filtered through this identity you were handed at birth, isn't the full picture. And here's what gets me about this. The shocking part isn't that we're walking around half asleep. It's what's doing the sleeping, because underneath all that forgetting, something is still there, something untouched, something that has never once been hurt by any of it. That's what this whole video is about. Every single tradition that has ever gotten close to this mystery uses the same word for it. Light. Not light as some soft metaphor for being a good person. Not light as a reward you get at the end if you behave. Light because it was literally the best word they could find for something that didn't have a proper word. The Gnostics called it Pneuma, the divine spark. The Hindu tradition called it Atman. The early Islamic mystics called it Sir, which means the secret. Different cultures, thousands of years apart. Completely different languages. And they were all pointing at the same thing, that inside you, not in your thoughts, not in your emotions, not in your personality, there is something that does not belong to this world. Something that wasn't born the way your body was born. Something that won't die the way your body will die. And this is the part that actually matters. It's not somewhere you have to get to. It's not something you have to earn. It's what you already are, right now, underneath everything. So then why does nobody talk about this? Why was this idea buried, burned, and declared dangerous for centuries? Because a person who genuinely knows the light is already inside them, doesn't need to buy access to it from anyone. And that was the problem. So how does something that vast get buried so completely? This is where the Gnostic framework gets genuinely interesting. Because they didn't just say, the world is broken. They actually tried to explain how it got this way. And their answer was not what you'd expect. They didn't say the world was created by a cruel god. They said it was created by an ignorant one. They called him the Demiurge, the craftsman, the builder. And here's the detail that changes everything once it actually lands. He didn't build this world out of evil. He built it out of not knowing. He genuinely believed he was the highest thing that existed. He had no idea there was something above him. No idea the true light even existed. So he built a world that reflected what he knew, which was limitation, separation, a place where your value has to be constantly earned, where there's never quite enough, where something always feels slightly out of reach, no matter how much you accumulate. Sound familiar? Because I think most of us, if we're honest, have felt that low-grade sense that no matter what you achieve, or fix or improve about yourself, the approval you're chasing never fully arrives. The Gnostics weren't writing mythology for the sake of it. They were mapping the inside of the human experience. And once you see that map, a lot of things start to make sense. But here's where the story actually turns. Because the Demiurge, for all his power, made one mistake. When he was building the human being out of the stuff of this world, He unknowingly sealed inside it a piece of something that wasn't his, a fragment of the true light, the Pleroma, the divine fullness that existed long before him and far above him. He didn't know he'd done it, and that spark has been sitting inside every human being ever since, not waiting to be rescued, not waiting to be earned or achieved or unlocked through the right ritual, just waiting to be seen. This is the part that's completely different from anything mainstream religion usually teaches. It's not, get good enough and God will accept you. It's not, follow the rules long enough and eventually you'll be let in. It's, you were never locked out. The light was never taken from you. You just forgot it was there. And that single shift from seeking something outside yourself to remembering what's already inside changes the entire game. You're not building towards something. You're uncovering what was always there. Now, the Gnostics didn't leave this as a vague idea. They encoded it in a story. And honestly, it's one of the most psychologically sharp myths I've ever come across. The story of Sophia. In the Gnostic world, Sophia isn't a side character. She's one of the great beings who emanates directly from the divine source, full of wisdom, full of light. But then she does something. She reaches. She moves beyond the boundaries of the divine structure, pulled by something she can't name. A longing, a desire to know, to create, to go further. And in that movement, in that single act of reaching outward from a place of wanting, she falls, not as a punishment, not because she was bad, but because she moved towards something she believed was missing. Not realizing that what she was looking for was already in her, and the world that came out of that fall carried the shape of that longing within it. This isn't a story about blaming a woman. This is a story about every human being who has ever chased something outside themselves to fill a gap that was never actually there. Sophia's fall is our fall, her forgetting is our forgetting, and her return, her eventual recognition and restoration to the fullness, that's not meant to be a story you watch from the outside. It's meant to be the story you live. Before we go further, if this is landing for you, if any part of this feels less like information and more like something you already knew but couldn't find words for, drop a comment below. Tell me what's hitting you, and actually, while you're there, let me know what you want us to go deep on next. The Hermetic tradition, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the mystery schools? Whatever you want, drop it in the comments and I'll read every single one. Now, let's talk about what's actually keeping you from the thing we've been describing. Between you and that spark stands something. The Gnostics called them Archons, not demons with horns and fire, not some external supernatural threat. Archons are the forces, inside you and around you, that keep your attention locked to the surface of who you think you are. And when you look at them honestly, they're not hard to spot. The constant fear that you're not enough, the need for other people's approval to feel okay, the identity you've built around achievements that secretly terrifies you to lose, the voice that plays on repeat telling you that you are the sum of your worst moments. Those are the Archons. They weren't planted in you on purpose. They're just what happens when you grow up inside a world built on forgetting who you are. It's like gravity. Gravity doesn't hate you. It's not trying to ruin your life. But if you don't know it exists, it controls everything. And here's the key part, the part the Gnostics kept coming back to. You can't fight your way out of this. You can't white-knuckle your way to freedom. You can't discipline yourself past it or achieve your way above it. The only thing that actually dissolves an Archon is recognizing what you are underneath it. Because light doesn't fight the dark, it just shows up, and dark becomes irrelevant. In 1945, a farmer in the Egyptian desert near a place called Nag Hammadi was digging when he struck a clay jar. Inside were 13 leather-bound books, papyrus texts that hadn't been touched in over 1,600 years. They'd been hidden. Scholars believed deliberately. Right around the time the early church was locking down which stories got to survive and which ones didn't. Among those texts was something called the Gospel of Thomas. No miracles, no resurrection account, no theology of sin and atonement, just sayings, 113 of them. And one of the very first ones says this: "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." Sit with that for a second. Not, believe the right doctrine and be saved. Not, follow the right authority and be protected. bring forth what is within you. It's not asking you to acquire something new. It's asking you to stop burying what's already there. The reason this text got buried, the reason it was dangerous, wasn't because it was wrong. It was buried because it was too self-contained, too complete. It left no room for a middleman. Once you feel those words land, not as information, but as something you recognize from the inside, you stop needing someone to tell you what you are. And that's exactly what couldn't be allowed. Okay, so what does this actually feel like in real life? Not in theory. Because I think a lot of people hear divine spark and inner knowing, and they picture some dramatic spiritual experience, light flooding the room, everything making sense all at once. That's not usually how it happens. Every tradition that's pointed honestly at this says the same thing. It feels like recognition, not like discovering something new, like finally noticing something that was always quietly there. It's like a sound in the background you've been hearing your entire life that you suddenly realize you've been hearing. It shows up in the strangest places, not in meditation retreats or churches, sometimes washing dishes, sitting in traffic, staring out a window. Just a brief, inexplicable moment of stillness where the version of you that's always performing, always striving, always managing how you're perceived, goes quiet. And behind it there's something watching. Something that isn't anxious. Something that hasn't been hurt by any of it in the way the surface self has. And when you first notice it, even for a second, something shifts. Not in your life circumstances, in your relationship to them. You're a little less inside the story, a little more aware of the one watching it. That's not the destination, but it's the door. I want to be direct about something now. The Council of Nicaea in 325 CE didn't just organize Christian theology. It drew a hard line. One side orthodox, the other side heresy. And almost everything that ended up labeled heresy had one thing in common. It taught that you didn't need a middleman to reach God. The Gnostics, the Cathars, the Christian mystics who talked about union with the divine rather than submission to it. All of them, each in their time, silenced, absorbed, or erased. Why? The simple answer is power, money, control. An institution that sells access to God can only function if people believe they can't access God without it. But there's a deeper layer. Direct inner knowing threatens everything built on the premise that meaning is elsewhere. Every system that says, sacrifice now, reward later. Every structure that positions itself between you and what you most need. Gnosis doesn't call those systems evil, it just calls them unnecessary. And unnecessary is more threatening than evil, because evil you fight. Unnecessary just fades away on its own. What we lost, what that suppression cost us, wasn't just a set of texts or a theological tradition. It was permission. Permission to look inside, without apology, without a gatekeeper, and to trust what we found there. We're just starting to reclaim that. So here's where we land, not with a system, not with a new set of beliefs to carry home, just a question. Not the kind you answer and move on from. The kind that, when you actually sit with it, starts doing something to the person holding it. What in you is hearing these words right now? Not your name, not your history, not the list of things you're worried about or proud of. What is the thing that's aware of all of that? You can't think your way to it, but you can turn your attention toward it. And in that turning, that one quiet move of looking at the thing that's already looking, something becomes visible that's very hard to put back in a box once you've seen it. This is what the Gnostics spent centuries trying to preserve. This is what got sealed in clay jars and buried in the desert, hoping it would survive. Not a doctrine, not a ritual, not a theology, just a reminder that the thing you've been looking for is the one doing the looking, that the distance between you and the divine was never a distance in the world. It was a distance in attention, and maybe, even just for a second while you've been here, that distance closed a little, not because you arrived somewhere new, but because you remembered where you already were. The spark was never lost. It was just waiting for you to stop looking past it. And look, if something in this video landed for you, if any part of it felt less like learning something new and more like remembering something old, I genuinely want to know. Drop a comment, tell me what hit you, and tell me what you want to go deeper on next. The Hermetic tradition, the real history of early Christianity, the mystery schools of Egypt, the lost teachings of Mary Magdalene, whatever pulls you, comment it below. That's literally how I decide what we make next, and I read everything. If this is the kind of content you want more of, hit subscribe. We put out a new video every week, and it only gets deeper from here. And if you want to keep going right now, the next video is right there. It picks up exactly where this one left off. Because what you're searching for isn't at the end of a long road. It's already in the one walking it.